Hello, so today we're going to take notes on writing expressions. This is for the Standard 6 Expressions and Exponents 2. By the time you are done with this lesson, which the notes are going to be on page 87 and 88, you should be able to answer the question, how can I translate an expression into words? The topic, once again, is writing expressions. The EQ, how can I translate an expression into words? Pause if you need to write that down. This is going on page 88. With this standard, you know you have successfully done the standard if you can write, if you can read, and you can evaluate. And remember, evaluate is just a fancy word for solve. If you can write, read, and evaluate expressions with numbers and letters. And recall that we call letters, when they're in the form of an expression or an equation, we call them variables. Now, in order to do this, we need to make sure that we understand some terminology. And there are some translations. Because remember, math is its own language. And when we have that math language, we know some words mean certain things. When we were doing rational numbers, we knew that if we had the word of, it referred to multiplying. If we had the word is, it referred to equals. Well, there's more words that fall into that category so that we can translate. So we're going to start with this table, and we're going to fill it in. And the first words or terms that we're going to look for are words that refer to adding. And if we see these words in a word problem or in an expression, we know that it's telling us that we're going to be adding. And the first one is if you see the word more, like 2 more than 3, that's telling you you're adding 2 to 3. Okay, it's an adding. One that goes back to our days in elementary school, plus 3 plus 2. Increased, that sounds very academic. 2 increased by 3, very academic. The sum, what is the sum of 2 and 3? Combined. If I combined 2 and 3, what would I have? Combined. And then we could also have the total. What is the total if I added 2 and 3? Which reminds me, you can also have add. That's another word, obviously, that we can do. And then you can have all together. If I put 2 and 3 all together, what would I have? Or 2 and 3 all together is, so all together is another one of those words. So those are all words that represent adding. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so I can try to get the whole table in. All right, now let's talk about subtracting. With subtracting, we have some other words. We can have less than, 2 less than 3. We can have fewer than. Fewer is just a fancier way of saying less. Fewer than. 3 fewer than 5. Decreased. Once again, that's very academic. 5 decreased by 2. And then we go with our old school minus. We always love our little minus. 2 minus 1. Difference. What is the difference of 6 and 5? Another one that we could have is lost. If I lost 5 pounds and I weigh 140 pounds, what do I weigh now? Lost. And finally, take or gave away. So you could do gave away. If I had 2 dogs and I gave away 1 dog, how many dogs do I have left? Sad day when I lose my dogs. So those are addition and subtraction. Addition and subtraction have the most amount of words that we can use. Multiplication, really there's 3 words that we're going to possibly use. The first one is product. What is the product of 2 and 3? Then we could have 2, remember when we were doing percentages, we used of. So when you have of, that's also a sign that you're multiplying. And then our good old friend from elementary school, times. 6 times 3. Okay, and then we have divide. Divide, we have some interesting words for divide. It's kind of the most unique one. The first one is each. If I have 3 eggs and I divide it amongst 3 students, how many does each person have? So each. If I also could have equally, if I had 6 hot dogs and I wanted to divide them equally among 3 children, what would I have? So you can do equally. Split. I want to split this pizza equally among 7 kids. Our academic quotient. What is the quotient of 24 and 6? Per. That's another one. 6 per, or how many donuts do I have per 6 kids or whatever. So per. And then finally out of. That's another one. So anytime you see these words in a word problem or in an expression written out, you know that's what it's referring to. Same thing as if you have numbers, like a numerical expression, which is just numbers, then you can translate it to words and write it out with words as well. All right, finally we have our equals. And we know that is means equals, but we can also have are, was, and were. Those are all words that refer to equal. So now that we have our little glossary of translation terms for math terms, we're going to actually put some different notes down here where we're going to evaluate the difference between writing expressions versus evaluating expressions. Now, when we write an expression, we're not necessarily answering, we're just writing it out, and sometimes we're translating it from words to numbers. So the first type of expression we can have is a numerical expression. Can anybody guess what is numerical referring to?
Numbers.
Numbers, that's right, numerical, it's numbers. So a numerical expression is just numbers. Then we can have an algebraic. Can anybody think what an algebraic would be, James?
Algebra.
Algebra. What do we have in algebra that is different than just a numeric expression?
Variables.
Variables. We have letters. So they have letters. And one example of this would be, for example, if we had 2 more than a number to the second power. So if you notice a number, when I have that phrase in, I'm referring to a variable. All right, so now evaluating expressions. Evaluating expressions is just meaning to solve. And if you can have problems like 2 plus 3 with numbers, you could have problems with variable like y plus 3. You could have a variable equals a term, and then you could have to plug it in. All of those are evaluating. You can use any type of operation to evaluate, and you can also have multiple operations put in order, and that's where it's really important for us to remember our order of operations. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we have a little half sheet that I gave you. It looks like this. We're going to fold this paper in half, like so, and we're going to take some scissors, and we're only going to slice on the solid lines to where it meets the horizontal or the vertical line. And it's going to kind of look like fringe, or I said eyelashes. Pause if you need to get this in, but once you have it done, we're going to go to page 87, and we're going to tape it in, and I'm only taping the blank back so that my little fringe can fold over. And what we're going to do is we're going to translate some expressions that are in verbal form, we're going to put them into numeric form.
If you wanted so that if you opened all of them, you can open one of them and do lines so that you could...
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could do lines if you wanted to. All right, so the first one, it says 15 less than 5 times a number. So we're going to start with the 5 times a number, okay? We have 5. Class, what is times refer to what type of operation? Anybody, class?
Multiplication.
So 5 times a number. When I have a number, what am I referring to? I said that just a minute ago.
A variable.
A variable. So let's give it a S for Sierra. So 5 times S, and then I have 15 less. So I would have 5 times S minus 15. There is my expression. The next one, 7 times the sum of 5 and a number. Okay? So when I have the sum of 7 and a number, the sum is referring to addition. But I need to multiply that times 7. In order to be able to do this, I'm going to have to put that sum into a parentheses. Okay? So I'm going to have 5 and a number, a variable, and then I'm going to do 7 times that. Okay, at this point what I want you to do is I want you to try to do the last several ones. The very last ones we're actually going to convert from numbers to words. So like you would have x plus 14. So you could say the sum of a number and 14. I want you to try these. We will tomorrow or the next day, we will go over these as a class and I'll give you some of my answers. But I want you to try to translate on your own. So finish the rest of these, and if you have any questions or you need to go back, you may pause and go back for more help. Thank you.